On August 8th, Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan and Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev signed a joint declaration outlining the outcome of their meeting, with US President Donald Trump present as witness and facilitator. The declaration introduced the TRIPP initiative, the Trump Route for International Peace and Prosperity. The declaration underlines that any opening of communications must be based on respect for sovereignty, territorial integrity, and jurisdiction, referring to the unimpeded connectivity and reciprocal benefits for international intrastate transportation. While these principles are reaffirmed, the document offers no clarity on how they would be upheld in practice. Key implementation details, including legal and security arrangements, remain unspecified. The practical meaning of connectivity becomes clearer when looking at Armenia's south. Kapan, the center of Syunik province in Armenia, one of the most important towns. It's also the gateway that's eventually going to connect not only the TRIPP project east-west, but north-south from Asia coming through Armenia to Europe. So it's becoming a center of the communication and transportation in the world. And since 2020 and 2023, it's actually taken on a security component, because after the defeat of 2020 war and the subsequent ethnic cleansing, we are at the border with Azerbaijan. In fact, some of the other side's military positions overlook a good part of this city. According to some estimates, up to 5% of the world's molybdenum production is concentrated in the Kajaran copper molybdenum deposits in Syunik. Zangezur Copper and Molybdenum Combine is a major employer with over 4,600 workers. Mining accounts for the vast majority of economic activity in and around Kapan, historically forming about 80 to 85% of the local economy by some estimates. Under Soviet rule, Kapan experienced massive growth driven by the expansion of the mining industry, becoming a major center for copper and molybdenum mining, with a rail line connecting it to the rest of the Soviet Union for mineral export. Nowadays, connectivity to major markets or tourism routes can be challenging. It takes approximately 5 hours to travel from Kapan to Yerevan via the narrow and winding roads. The trucks carrying goods from Iran along these roads make the journey even more challenging. Alternatively, travelers can take the newly opened Kapan airport, but at the time of our visit, the only plane was out of service for 6 months. Until the late 1980s, before the start of the Karabakh conflict and the breakup of the Soviet Union in 1991, Kapan was connected by rail to Yerevan via Azerbaijan's mainland territory and its exclave of Nakhchivan. Today, the former Kapan station building has been repurposed as the TUMO Center for Creative Technologies. Institutions like Kapan's TUMO Center show that the younger generation is increasingly gravitating towards technology and creative fields rather than mining.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
This is our TUMO building. This building used to be a train station back in 1932. Now, see, it's an educational center. The trains would come here. It was the main transportation until 1972 when the airport was built.
And this was stopped in 1990, correct?
Yeah,
89,
because
90 was the last trains.
Yeah, because Soviet Union crumbled and then Armenia was in war and the train was going through Azerbaijan territory. Yeah.
While Kapan's old train station has been given a new lease on life as the TUMO, the abandoned station in Meghri stands frozen in time, a silent reminder of a once bustling rail connection that linked the region. Meghri station directly faces the border.
Here we are at the Armenian-Iranian border. This is the closest I've been to Iran in 47 years. That's so close, but in a way so far away.
The station building now stands abandoned, often described as overgrown and decaying, with remnants of rail and some rusting railing stock remaining nearby.
This Iraq's adjacent section played a very significant role during the Soviet Union. As a main railway artery, it was extremely important, because the primary connection between the Soviet Union and Iran passed through this section. The station operated until mid-April 1993. After that, traffic stopped completely, and the station's operations were essentially shut down.
You said something very interesting that I have never heard before. People usually think the connections were cut right at the end of the Soviet Union or at the beginning of the war. You said trains were running until April of 1993. How did the station operate when these countries were at war?
After the collapse of the Soviet Union, together with Azerbaijan, a decision was made regarding these railway sections. They, on their territory, and we, on ours, agreed not to interfere with railway traffic, regardless of whether the cargo was going to Nakhichevan, Yerevan, or Iran. That arrangement functioned for quite some time. In 1993, however, certain incidents occurred, clashes, so to speak. To be honest, they weren't major clashes, but still, the trains were stopped, on their side, on our side, and so on. From that point, it became clear that this arrangement would no longer work, that it was no longer possible to continue like this.
So when did the station's operations stop entirely?
The railway had stopped operating fully for quite some time. There was no regular traffic, but it still functioned in a limited way. Our mountain pass here is quite unsafe for traffic in winter. Snow, ice, accidents. So essential cargo was transported this way to Kapan.
Cargo was coming from Iran?
Yes, shipments came in. Flour, sugar, certain vital food supplies.
Syunik's southern border with Iran is economically important because it contains Armenia's only direct border crossing with Iran at Agarak, Norduz. The gateway is pivotal for Armenia-Iran trade and logistics. During the Karabakh War of the 1990s, when Armenia faced severe energy and food shortages, the narrow and winding road to Iran became a lifeline. Today, the same route provides Armenia with access to Iran's Charbagh port and the Gulf countries. Today, Armenia imports agricultural goods, petroleum products, and other key commodities from Iran. The most significant project between the two countries is the gas for electricity arrangement, under which Armenia receives natural gas from Iran in exchange for exporting electricity. Meghri's economy heavily depends on border trade with Iran. Key traded goods include agricultural products, fruits, nuts, and some industrial goods. Local businesses in Meghri serve both Iranian visitors and cross-border traders, supporting retail, hospitality, and logistics services. Hotels and guest houses are still few. One of the rare ones is run by Teresa, a retired border guard officer who hosted our team at her Pokerta guest house. The north-south highway runs right in front of her property, from where we could observe tunnels and roads under construction on the new highway, mostly built by Iranian engineers and workers, assisted by Armenian heavy machinery operators. Behind us, as you can see, the north-side highway is being built. What is your personal opinion, and also the general public's opinion about this project?
Some people say it's good, that the road will be shortened by 3 hours and will reach Yerevan faster. Someone goes to see a doctor, someone travels for work. Others say it's pointless, that so much money is being spent for no real purpose. But overall, I also think that reaching Yerevan faster is important. This road is terrible, and tourists who come here say it's beautiful, but very far away.
During the season, a slight increase in tourists from various directions is noticeable. However, in late autumn, during our visit, there wasn't much movement in the city. Restaurants and cafes are very few, but one of the unique businesses that is encountered in Meghri is the newly opened Italian pizzeria Pokerta. One of the co-founders of the pizzeria, Karin Betyan, said that their business primarily serves local customers. This part of Armenia you moved to has become, in some ways, the center of a good part of the conversation of the world in the last couple of months. Lots of activity that you notice right behind, your shop. There's the north-south highway that's being built. There's also this conversations about the TRIPP project, even though none of the details are frankly known. What's the general impression of people in Meghri about these developments? Is it fear? Is it opposition? Is it hope? Or is it uncertainty?
It's hard to say. Even with the north-south highway, there's people that are for it, people against it. It's ruined a lot of people's livelihoods and lives. Yes, sure, they got paid a lump sum, but before that, those people were keeping orchards. Now they've bought houses in Yerevan. And so what does that actually do to the community of Meghri and the local economy? Mm-hmm.
One of the things in the north-south highway, with the new tunneling and all that, the whole idea, the concept behind it is that you shorten the trip from Meghri to Yerevan. Is that something that people see as a positive, or is that something that has really no impact in people's lives?
A lot of people that like sell their produce and they make a living off tourists or outsiders, or they fare better, at least in the short term, right? A foreigner comes, makes the trek down to Meghri and comes, buys pomegranates at a certain price. They think that a shorter road will mean more foreigners and that price will stay stable. But when access increases, that means more people have skin in the game of in terms of participating. And we've seen a lot of people come from Yerevan and try to buy properties or see how they can get involved in a business thing. One thing Meghri has going for it is it doesn't, like there's a lot of community, and so it does have a little bit of that fabric woven to protect it.
Yeah. It is fair to say that almost everyone has heard of TRIPP in this region, but almost no one knows what it means, if it ever will be built, and what, if any, impact it will have on their lives. Information about this process is limited, and local communities are largely unaware of how potential changes could affect them. There's been a lot of talk about the so-called Trump route since August 8. But how do you feel about discussions around this and other routes? Are you more hopeful, more fearful?
Half are afraid, half are hopeful. Reasonable people each think in their own way. Everyone interprets it differently, the way they understand it or imagine it. I can't really say much about that. But as for the north-south road, I think it's quite good. I don't really go deep into politics when it comes to the railway issue. I can't really imagine how that would work.
I mean, the TRIPP road is called also the Zangezur corridor.
Depending on who it is, yeah.
I think you called it the Putin corridor at one point.
Yes.
I don't think anyone in Meghri who has thought about the outcome and what the results of that road, actually the realization of that road would be, anyone who knows what the realization of that road would be, there's no one that would be for it.
Okay.
No one would support it. There's no economic benefits.
Okay.
So when Turkish food comes in, like when the Artsakh pomegranates start flooding in through the gates, right? Like in Arajamukh, there was the pomegranate orchard, right? It was right across the border over here. So when those pomegranates start flooding in, and the Turkish governments, for example, start subsidizing that, what's going to happen to local economies here? What are people going to do?
They get overwhelmed by it.
And so I don't think there's any signs of a Trump hotel going up and the economy booming. Luckily, there's no talk about the TRIPP road actually happening. It's a handshake agreement. I don't know, you might have more information than me on that.
Christina Kavian, the U.S. ambassador to Armenia, points to the important gains for Armenia and describes TRIPP as a strategic transport initiative designed to connect Central Asia and Western Europe through Armenia, opening a secure east-west transit route that benefits all countries along it, especially Armenia, whose east-west borders have been closed for decades.
Right now there's a focus on the rail link, and the idea is that TRIPP would ultimately be multimodal, which means that there could be other elements to it, but the rail is the one that we're focusing on now.
Is it fair to say this is triage? What you're describing, is it a triage of things that are desirable, the triage of things that are already planned?
Well, right now the rail is the first step and the main plan. There are also a couple other ideas for things like perhaps a gas pipeline, for a fiber optic cable, for electricity transmission. I mean, there are other ideas also being explored in terms of the multimodal. Those haven't all been worked out yet, and I think that they will be once we have our joint entity created and they can start discussing what that'll look like.
In Syunik, it is fair to say that people are far more skeptical and guarded about the TRIPP project than other developments in the region. Responses were very much married to residents' other political opinions. If they are opposed to the current government, they view the TRIPP road as another giveaway and humiliation for the country. For those supportive of the current government, they see this road as the pathway to peace and economic development, while the majority, which are in neither camp, are at this point mostly indifferent.
This peace statue had a very interesting and unique history. It was a very beautiful statue. Now it's a bit neglected and in poor condition. Back then, it held a dove of peace in its hand, and what is symbolic is where the face is looking. If you look closely, it's facing toward Nakhichevan, as if the statue is saying, "Let there be peace." Like our current Prime Minister, he is now an advocate of peace in this region, and this statue also seems to be offering peace, holding out the dove with one hand, while the other hand was extended backward toward its back. That hand is now broken. It was a very beautiful statue, but now it's in somewhat poor condition.
What we witnessed on our 4-day trip is more than anything is what happens when geopolitics, economics, and culture mix with the raw powers of local dictators and faraway players at one of the historic crossroads of the world.